Some friendships appear as though they were written in the stars, improbable at first glance, but profoundly meaningful. Such was the case between Sir Elton John, the British music legend, and Diana, Princess of Wales. Their connection was one of warmth, respect, and occasional turbulence, marked by laughter, misunderstanding, emotional depth, and mutual admiration. While Diana rarely commented on their bond publicly, Elton John never shied away from praising her, in private and in public, in performances and in interviews, and most memorably, through song. In recent years, Elton has shared more personal reflections about Diana, revealing dimensions of her personality that had largely remained out of public view. These recollections illuminate the intricacies of their friendship, how it began, how it was tested, and how it ultimately left an indelible impression on Elton's life. Elton John and Princess Diana's first meeting occurred in 1981 during a birthday celebration for Prince Andrew at Windsor Castle. At the time, Diana had not yet married Prince Charles, and Elton was already an international music icon. Their introduction was serendipitous, but it was immediately clear they shared a connection. At that party, the duo famously danced the Charleston together for 20 minutes straight, an unusual and delightfully unroyal moment that marked the beginning of a genuine friendship. It wasn't just the dance itself that made the evening special. It was Diana's charm and ease that made an impression. Elton later described her as possessing an almost magical ability to make people feel comfortable. Her social grace and natural warmth stood out, even in the often formal and scripted environment of the British royal family. From that moment on, the two maintained a close relationship that spanned more than a decade, filled with laughter, shared causes, moments of glamour, and deep emotional support. But as with any real relationship, theirs wasn't without conflict. Elton John's connection to the royal family predated his friendship with Diana. Since the 1970s, he had been friendly with other royals, particularly Princess Margaret and the Queen Mother, both of whom were fans of his music. He had attended royal events, performed at Prince Charles's Prince's Trust concerts, and rubbed shoulders with the monarchy long before Diana entered his life. He recounted one early experience at a Windsor Castle event where he danced with both Princess Anne and Queen Elizabeth II. The scene was so surreal that Elton later joked in his autobiography about trying to keep a straight face while grooving with the monarch to "Rock Around the Clock." These anecdotes underscored the unique and often playful dynamics he shared with the royal family, something he would later revisit with Diana. Over the years, Elton and Diana attended various high-profile events together. One memorable gathering involved other celebrity guests, including Richard Gere and Sylvester Stallone. As Elton tells it, Diana and Gere hit it off instantly, sharing an animated and flirtatious conversation in front of the fireplace. Stallone, however, appeared visibly agitated and eventually stormed out after it became clear that he was being upstaged by Gere. Diana remained unbothered, either unaware of the tension or, perhaps more likely, used to such situations. Elton remarked that men often lost their composure around her, not simply because of her beauty, but due to her energy, wit, and intangible allure. These traits, he said, made her unforgettable. Despite the genuine affection between them, Elton and Diana's friendship experienced a serious rupture in 1997, just months before her death. The issue stemmed from a coffee table book, Rock and Royalty, which Elton co-created with fashion designer Gianni Versace to benefit the Elton John AIDS Foundation. The book was a juxtaposition of royal photographs and artistic nude male imagery. Diana had agreed to write the foreword, but later pulled out, allegedly to avoid offending the Queen. Elton was blindsided and hurt, especially because Diana had previously reviewed and approved the book. He wrote her a heartfelt letter expressing disappointment and the financial consequences her withdrawal had for his AIDS charity. Diana's formal and cold reply, starting with "Dear Mr. John," left Elton stunned. He considered her a close friend, and this apparent distancing felt deeply personal. He feared she was isolating herself from those who provided honest feedback and instead surrounding herself with sycophants. Though they were both too proud to immediately reconcile, the brutal murder of Gianni Versace in July 1997 changed everything. Upon hearing of Versace's murder, Diana immediately reached out to Elton. She somehow obtained his number while he was in Saint-Tropez and called to console him. She apologized for their falling out, dismissing it as a silly disagreement and asking to resume their friendship. They reunited at Versace's funeral, where a now famous photo shows Diana leaning toward Elton as a gesture of comfort. The reconciliation was swift and heartfelt. Diana offered to become a patron of his AIDS Foundation, and they even scheduled a lunch in London to discuss future charitable work. But fate intervened. On August 31, 1997, just 6 weeks later, Princess Diana died in a car crash in Paris. Elton learned the news via fax, as he was asleep on his yacht in the south of France. A handwritten note from a friend simply said, "Terrible news about Diana." When he turned on the television, he realized the world had lost one of its most beloved figures, and he had lost a dear friend. Elton's grief soon turned into artistic tribute. He and lyricist Bernie Taupin rewrote "Candle in the Wind," originally written for Marilyn Monroe, into a version honoring Diana. The performance at her funeral inside Westminster Abbey became one of the most iconic moments in British cultural history. Despite its emotional impact, the royal family was initially hesitant to allow Elton to perform the song. They feared it would be too sentimental. Declassified documents from the National Archives revealed that a saxophonist was even placed on standby in case the tribute was rejected. It was the Dean of Westminster Abbey, Reverend Dr. Wesley Carr, who fought for the performance. In a memo to palace officials, he insisted that the moment called for boldness and something from the modern world, something Diana had represented. He believed Elton's tribute was not only appropriate, but essential. Eventually, the palace agreed. The result was a soul-stirring rendition that moved millions across the globe. The rewritten "Candle in the Wind" sold over 33 million copies and became the best-selling single in history. For Elton, those 4 minutes on stage were the most difficult of his career. He wasn't singing for fame or applause. He was singing for Diana. The image of Prince William and Prince Harry, then just 15 and 12, walking behind their mother's coffin, haunted Elton for years. He publicly criticized how the young princes were forced to mask their grief in front of the world. Elton John didn't stop honoring Diana after her funeral. In 2007, he performed at the tribute concert organized by William and Harry. He remains close to her sons, particularly Harry, whose advocacy work in mental health and HIV awareness mirrors that of his mother. In 2019, after tabloids criticized Harry and Meghan Markle for their travel habits, Elton stepped in to defend them. He publicly condemned the media's intrusion and reminded the public of how that same behavior contributed to Diana's death. His Elton John AIDS Foundation continues to pay tribute to Diana's legacy, highlighting her efforts to humanize HIV/AIDS victims when it was deeply stigmatized. Her gesture of shaking hands with AIDS patients was not political. It was deeply humane, and it transformed public opinion. To understand why Diana meant so much to Elton, one must consider his own background. Born Reginald Dwight in 1947, he was raised in a strict household and found emotional refuge in music. Despite his fame, Elton battled personal demons, including addiction and self-doubt. He credits much of his emotional recovery to meaningful friendships, including the one he shared with Diana. She inspired him not just through her public acts of compassion, but through their private conversations, dinner parties, and mutual support. They laughed, they fought, and ultimately, they healed, much like family. More than 2 decades after Diana's death, Elton John still honors her memory, not through grand gestures alone, but in the way he lives his life, advocates for the vulnerable, and defends her sons. Their friendship, improbable as it may have seemed at first, was anchored in mutual understanding and emotional honesty. For Elton, Diana was not just the people's princess. She was a friend, a confidant, and a reminder that even in the highest echelons of royalty, humanity, vulnerability, and empathy could thrive. Their story remains a testament to the power of unlikely friendships, those rare connections that transcend status, survive miscommunication, and live on through legacy and love.